I want to bring in now Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, the longtime Democratic whip. Congressman, it's great to see you. You've seen shutdowns like this before, but does this one feel different to you? Because it does to me covering it.
Well, thank you very much for having me. This one feels different because it is different. We've never had a shutdown, at least since I've been in the Congress, 30 plus years, when people refuse to even allow the climate to exist for negotiations. When you close down the House, send people home, where do you find common ground? We can't find common ground out in our congressional districts. I'm here in South Carolina, and I have colleagues across the country, and we ought to be at least on the floor, carrying out other duties and responsibilities, and then creating an atmosphere within which we might find common ground. So it says to me that the Speaker is not interested in the members of the House of Representatives being together, being among each other, and people sometimes don't believe it, but we do interact and across party lines, but you can't do it when everybody is in their respective corners of the country.
And they very much are in their respective corners. I think that's what's so striking to me is the way that people seem very comfortable in their starting positions, even as we head into week 4 of the shutdown. But the reality is that the only way out here is a bipartisan one. So what is that off-ramp?
Well, I don't think that we're comfortable at all. I was in Washington. I spent Sunday night and Monday night in Washington, not many people are there, but I'm not comfortable at all sitting here. The off-ramp to me is for bring us all back to Washington and let us begin to interact with each other. If the Speaker needs to get something from on high to make him move, it may be that some bubbling up from his members may get him to move a little faster. And I think that will happen because these members are out here. I know what they're hearing here in South Carolina when I have constituents who know. In fact, some have already gotten notice that they're going to see the health care costs doubling. And I've seen some numbers where they have tripled. And these people are talking to their legislators. The legislators ought to be in position to talk to their leadership so as we can get some movement going on this issue.
But are you hearing from any of your Republican colleagues? I mean, you talk about South Carolina, roughly 12% of your state is on an ACA health care plan. They would likely see their premiums double. You're talking about how some of them may have already gotten those notices. Are you hearing from any of your Republican colleagues that they're concerned about it? Because so far, we've only really heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene in a way that's outspoken about the impact of this.
Well, I've heard from the constituents of my Republican colleagues. No, I have not heard directly from them. As I said, we've been away from Washington, and the Republicans usually interact with or they're in their respective places of service. And so I have not heard from them directly. But I hear from a lot of the constituents of my Republican colleagues, and they are very, very upset. And I think they're going to demonstrate that at the polls on November 4th. I was in Virginia 2 days ago. Before that, I was in New Jersey. And I can tell you, people are engaged. They know what's going on, and they are going to make their feelings known on Tuesday, November 4th.
Yeah, campaigning there with one of your former colleagues, one of your current colleagues in the Virginia and New Jersey governor's races, those in just 2 weeks' time. But in the meantime, while we're in this shutdown posture, we've seen the Trump administration pulling funding for programs across the government. The person leading that charge is the OMB director, Russ Vought. I want you to take a listen to how the president talked about him yesterday. I'll ask your reaction on the other side. Watch.
We have Darth Vader. You know Darth Vader, right? Darth Vader is a man who I think he's sitting right. Is that Darth? Stand up, please, Darth Vader. Stand up. Does everybody know? They call him Darth Vader. I call him a fine man. but he's cutting Democrat priorities, and they're never going to get him back.
Want to get your reaction to how the president is talking about his OMB director as Darth Vader, not always known as the hero in the Star Wars story.
Well, I'm not much of a moviegoer. I read books and try to write them. But I do know from discussions of people who Darth Vader was, and he was not a nice person. And so I'll let that go for my comments there. But when it comes to cutting programs, let me say this very clearly. 45% of my congressional district are people who may not call themselves Democrats, but they benefit from the programs we Democrats are proposing. And if you look at the makeup of these congressional districts, and I can give you a good example. I think you all have done the research on this. Who are the people getting the benefit of the Affordable Care Act? Are they only Democrats? Absolutely not. More of them vote Republican than vote Democrat. When I did my 10, 20, 30 funding formula, 2/3 of the people who benefit from that funding formula are represented by Republicans in the Congress. So this is not about Democrats versus Republicans. This is about whether or not we do the things that are necessary to meet the needs of the American people, irrespective of how they may vote in November. That's not why we exist. And so for the president to keep putting everything in terms of who's a Democrat or who's a Republican, that to me is just craziness. Both my parents were Republicans, and I have Republicans in my family right now. I want to see them do well, and I want to see them benefit from this system as much as I want to see those who call themselves Democrats. So this is not about partisan politics, and we need to stop that. When the president gives out a clemency and says he had enough sense to vote for Republicans, that to me is not what the system is all about.
Yeah, referencing there the pardon and commutation of sentence for former Congressman George Santos, I imagine. Look, I think that you're right about the politics of it, the impact of the policy lapsing at the end of the year. It wouldn't be a Republican or a Democratic loss. It would just harm Americans trying to access health care. We'll see where this conversation goes back on Capitol Hill. I'll see you there. South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.